You're listening to the Fresh Hell podcast. Fresh Hell contains stories of a disturbing and often graphic nature and is intended for a mature audience. Please don't let your kids listen to this, or they might turn out like us.
Hi, I'm Annie from the US.
And I'm Johanna from Austria, and you're listening to your favorite international podcast. The podcast hosted by two women who never met in real life, just like Cardinal de Rohan and Marie Antoinette.
And that's true, but at least our correspondence is genuine.
True.
As far as we know. All right, before we get back into the Versailles drama, just a quick reminder, if you would like to support the show and get a whole bunch of extra content, you can join us over on Patreon. That is how you'll find early access, monthly live get-togethers, and of course, our Cinema Macabre episodes. Currently, we are watching and talking about the Netflix documentary, Amy Bradley is Missing. So come join us and tell us your thoughts. We are endlessly, truly so grateful to everyone who supports us. You keep this podcast alive, so thank you.
Yes, also huge shout out to our newest Patreon members, and they are Henny Wilson, Alicia Picciani Hall, and M, which is mysterious or murdery or macabre, who can say? Thank you so much. And not only to our Patreons, but to everyone listening and supporting. We truly appreciate every one of you. And one last thing, since spooky season is creeping closer, we're also collecting your Halloween listener stories. If you've ever had a creepy experience, a family ghost story, a brush with the unexplained, or something that still makes you shiver years later, send it to us. You can email your story to freshhellpodcast@gmail.com and we'll feature our favorites in our annual Halloween special. One of our favorite traditions, honestly. Just like last year, there will be a giveaway randomly chosen from everyone who sent us their story. So not only the ones who make it in the episode, don't worry.
That's right. And I have to say, I've heard several people now that I've talked to who say that's one of their favorite annual episodes. So that's always nice. Glad it's not just us who loves it. But thank you so much, as we said. Thank you to all of our Hellions. Whether you support us on Patreon, write reviews, or just tune in every week to download and listen to us, you are the reason that we get to keep telling these wild, fun, true stories.
Yeah. Last time we set the stage at Versailles and Schönbrunn. We talked about Marie Antoinette's childhood as Maria Antonia, her marriage into France, and the smear campaigns that had already damaged her reputation before this scandal even began. We traced the ridiculous history of the necklace itself, designed for Louis XV's mistress Madame du Barry, too extravagant for anyone else to buy. And we met the main characters. Cardinal de Rohan, desperate to win back the Queen's favor. Jeanne and Nicolas de la Motte, two schemers with a lot of ambition. Rétaux de villette, master of forged love letters. And Nicole d'Oliva, the poor woman who just happened to look at least a little bit like Marie Antoinette. By the end, Rohan was fully catfished, convinced that the Queen secretly wanted to reconcile with him, and now he's been promised the ultimate proof, a midnight meeting in the gardens of Versailles.
The night of the meeting was set, and Cardinal de Rohan must have felt as though he were walking into a dream. For years, he had been humiliated at Versailles, treated like a non-entity by the Queen, whose mother he once offended. Now, thanks to Jeanne de la Motte's careful manipulation, he believed he was finally in his redemption arc. One night in August 1784, he would meet Marie Antoinette in secret in the palace gardens, away from the prying eyes of courtiers and enemies. The setting couldn't have been more perfect for deception. The gardens of Versailles were a labyrinth of paths, hedges, and groves, designed as much for clandestine encounters as for daytime promenades. By day, they glittered with fountains and statues. By night, they were shadowy, perfumed with roses, and eerily quiet, the vast palace looming just beyond.
Looming.
Ooh, looming. Creepily. The meeting itself was brief, but for the cardinal, it was unforgettable. Nicole, dressed in white, with her cloak pulled close around her face, stepped out of the shadows and played her role as the queen. She barely spoke, only a few words, if any, really, because the less she said, the less chance there was of giving herself away.
Do you think we were there in a full My Fair Lady situation where they kind of taught her how to talk properly?
Yes. That's exactly how I imagine it, very much so.
3 or 4 words, right?
Yeah. Nicole was not a professional actress or an experienced conspirator. She was simply a vulnerable girl who sort of got caught up in a scheme too grand to refuse. But under the moonlight, with her pale features framed by the cloak, the resemblance to the queen was enough to complete the illusion. And then came the gesture that sealed the illusion. Sources don't all agree on exactly what happened. Some say that Nicole handed the cardinal a rose as if it was a token of Marie Antoinette's forgiveness. Others insist it was the other way around, that Rohan, overcome with emotion, offered the rose to her as a sign of his devotion, and she accepted it. Either way, that simple flower became all the proof he needed. To the cardinal, it was everything. After years of humiliation, here was the queen acknowledging him, forgiving him, and restoring him to her good graces. Or so he believed. The meeting lasted only moments before Nicole disappeared back into the shadows, the white of her gown disappearing into the dark. But for the cardinal, it was enough. He was convinced. He had seen the queen, exchanged a token, and felt himself restored in her favor. The deception was complete.
Honestly, I can't blame him. I mean, who wouldn't have fallen for this? I surely would. I mean, you just don't think that would happen.
No. I mean, honestly, the audacity, because I'm sure even impersonating the queen would have been a death penalty offense.
Yeah.
You know, so you just wouldn't imagine anyone doing this. And then there's also on top of that, we always sort of want to believe the thing that we want to believe, right? Like he desperately wants to be forgiven by the queen. So it's easy to convince him that that's happening because that's what he wants. Yeah.
Yeah, and so once Jeanne de la Motte saw how thoroughly he had swallowed the bait, she was ready for the next phase of the plan. Up until now, the scam had consisted of forged letters and one slightly dramatic encounter. It all was very clever, but it hadn't yet produced the kind of material payoff Jeanne wanted. Because the goal was obviously not to just humiliate Rohan or keep him busy with his fantasies. The goal was money, power, jewels, and the lifestyle Jeanne believed she deserved. Meanwhile, in a jeweler store still waited that cursed necklace gathering dust, unsold, unwanted, and burning a hole in the pockets of Charles-Auguste Böhmer and Paul Bassange. These 2 jewelers had spent years of their lives and nearly bankrupted themselves putting together the most extravagant piece of jewelry in Europe. And remember, this wasn't a dainty pendant, it was kind of a monstrosity of diamonds, almost 650 stones, weighing 2,400 carats, which just the stones alone apparently is 1 kilo.
That's a lot.
It was designed to hang like a glittering breastplate around the neck of Madame du Barry. Louis XV had ordered it, but he had died before he could give it to her. And his grandson, Louis XVI, had no interest in saddling himself or the state with such a gaudy reminder of his grandfather's mistress. Marie Antoinette, for her part, wanted nothing to do with it either. She already knew how much she was criticized for frivolity. I think the last thing she needed was to be seen draping herself in a necklace down to her belly button worth 1.6 million livres. And also, it was the necklace supposed to go to a mistress, so that's not fit for a queen.
No.
1.6 million livres. To put that in perspective, 1 livre was about what an average worker earned in 1 day. Last week, we already mentioned that the price tag was the equivalent of building a fully equipped battleship. And in today's terms, you're looking at anywhere from $20 to $100 million worth of diamonds. And I think it's more to the 100 million end of things. So yeah, this is enough to feed an entire village for decades.
Yeah. Not to mention that these old mine diamonds are generally worth more than modern diamonds.
Yeah. So Böhmer and Bassange were stuck. And I really feel bad for them. A little bit. I still don't understand why they didn't just disassemble, but okay.
Yeah, just turn that into a few other pieces, people. Come on.
Yeah. They had poured their fortune into acquiring these diamonds, also all the time they must have spent. And with every year the necklace went unsold, their desperation grew. They had approached Marie Antoinette before, only to be turned down, and they tried offering it to other royals in Europe. No one wanted to take on the financial burden, and now in the early 1780s, they were verging on ruin. This is exactly when Jeanne de la Motte saw her chance.
Jeanne had already convinced Rohan that he was in secret correspondence with the Queen. All she had to do now was link this phantom relationship to the necklace. The setup was perfect. Marie Antoinette wanted the necklace, but she couldn't be seen buying it. Oh, no. That would be politically disastrous, wouldn't it? But what if she could acquire it quietly through someone she trusted? Someone who desperately wanted to win back her favor. Someone like Cardinal de Rohan. Every time I try to say it's really hard. It's fine. The story that Jeanne spun was absolutely masterful. According to the forged letters, the Queen longed for the necklace, but needed the Cardinal's help to obtain it discreetly. If he acted as her intermediary, he would not only secure the jewels for her, but also prove his loyalty once and for all. For a man who had been dreaming of nothing but reconciliation, it was absolutely irresistible. Meanwhile, the jewelers were approached with good news. At last, they had a buyer.
Huzzah!
Huzzah! And not just any buyer. Oh no, it was the Queen herself. Of course, the jewelers understood that she couldn't appear openly in such a transaction. The political climate was too delicate. But she was working through the Cardinal, and payments would be arranged. To Böhmer and Bassange, this was salvation. All of their financial woes could be solved, their reputations restored, their years of work finally rewarded. They never suspected that they were about to be ruined. The details of the scheme were carefully choreographed. The Cardinal agreed to act as the middleman. The jewelers would hand over the necklace to him, and he would discreetly pass it on to the Queen through Jeanne. He was told that in time, he would be reimbursed and that the Queen would be forever grateful. And so, in January 1785, the jewelers brought the enormous necklace to the Cardinal. Imagine the scene. 2 master craftsmen presenting a glittering cascade of diamonds, one of the most valuable objects in Europe, to a cardinal who believed he was about to hand it over to the Queen of France. To him, this was the climax of his redemption arc. He was the Queen's chosen confidant, her loyal servant, the man who would rescue her from scandal by procuring the jewels in secret. To the jewelers, it was the deal of a lifetime. To Jeanne de la Motte, it was the moment the scam turned into a fortune. The Cardinal handed the necklace to Jeanne, who promised to deliver it personally to the Queen. In reality, it went straight to her husband, Nicolas. Together with Jeanne, he dismantled it almost immediately, breaking apart the strands, loosening the settings, and turning one enormous necklace into hundreds of loose diamonds. These stones were far easier to sell, and over the coming months, Nicolas traveled across Europe, hawking them off, which is wild because there could be someone listening to this episode right now who is from somewhere in Europe and is wearing an old antique diamond, and it could have been one of these.
We just don't know. We don't know.
You don't.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
But for now, for a brief, glittering moment, Jeanne de la Motte and her circle had pulled off the seemingly impossible. The necklace was gone, dismantled into glittering little pieces, frozen fractals, and Cardinal de Rohan walked around Versailles with the swagger of a man who had secret midnight meetings with the Queen of France.
France.
That poor fool. He truly believed he was the Queen's secret ally now, her trusted go-between in this matter so delicate it could never be acknowledged openly. Jeanne was flush with money, Nicolas was selling stones in London, and rétaux de villette was still scribbling away, forging love letters in Marie Antoinette's name that kept the cardinal's fantasies alive. But cons have a half-life, and this one was already breaking down. The first cracks appeared with the jewelers themselves. Böhmer and Basange had handed over their life's work on faith alone. They believed the Queen would pay because they had the cardinal's word and documents that looked like royal correspondence. But creditors don't take forged signatures, and their bills were coming due. At first, Jeanne smoothed things over with more notes. The Queen was, of course, endlessly grateful for their patience. There had been just a little delay in household accounts, she explained. A minor snag with signatures, but everything would be resolved shortly. The jewelers, just like the cardinal, wanted to believe. They had to believe. But every missed installment tightened the noose around their finances. By the summer of 1785, Böhmer and Basange were desperate enough to take the step they had avoided for far too long. The Queen would surely understand their need for payments, maybe if they talked to her themselves. Maybe then she would realize the urgency of the matter. And so, trembling with nerves, Böhmer approached the Queen. He delicately inquired about the first payment, certain she would nod, smile, and confirm that all was in order. Instead, Marie Antoinette looked at them with blank confusion. Payment? Necklace? In that instant, the jeweler must have felt his stomach drop through the floor. The Queen, stunned, demanded to know what he was talking about. Slowly, painfully, he explained the arrangement. That the cardinal had assured them he was acting on her behalf with Jeanne de la Motte as intermediary, and they had already handed over the necklace. She was supposed to be grateful, discreet, and preparing to pay. Was this not the case?
No, it was not the case. Marie Antoinette's horror only grew as she realized the full scope of the fraud. Not only had her name been used without her knowledge, but the scandalous necklace, that gaudy symbol of everything she had tried to avoid, had been hung around her neck in rumor, if not in fact. She had always refused it, and now, thanks to Jeanne's scheme, the public might believe she actually had taken it, in secret. For a queen already drowning in libelles, pamphlets, and gossip, this was a nightmare. Marie Antoinette had spent years trying to fend off accusations of extravagance and moral corruption. Now here was a ready-made story, gift-wrapped for her enemies. The Queen bankrupting France to buy a necklace in secret, using a disgraced cardinal and a shady countess to hide her greed. Furious, she went straight to her husband, Louis XVI. For all his awkwardness, he could be decisive when affronted, and this was a direct insult to the dignity of the crown. He ordered an immediate investigation. Who had dared to use the Queen's name? Where was the necklace? And why was a man of the church acting as if he was the Queen's errand boy? The order came down swiftly. Arrest the cardinal. On August 15, 1785, the feast of the Assumption of the Virgin Mary, which is one of the most important holy days in the Catholic calendar, it commemorates the belief that Mary, at the end of her earthly life, was taken body and soul into heaven. For 18th century France, still officially a deeply Catholic kingdom, this was a day of huge religious significance.
Sorry for interrupting. In German, it's called Maria Himmelfahrt, and in Austria, for example, it's still a Catholic feast day and also a public holiday. And many towns and villages, also the one where I live, called obviously not only church services, but also processions with people carrying the statue of the Virgin Mary, and she's decorated with flowers and herbs. And in some regions, there's also the tradition of blessing the herbs, the Kräuterweihe, in church. Maybe somebody finds that interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So at Versailles, the feast was marked with a grand mass and elaborate ceremonies in the royal chapel. The entire court gathered, nobles in their finest silk, clergy in full vestments, chandeliers blazing, and the rustle of fabric. You can just imagine it. The cardinal, as Grand Almoner of France, had a central role. It was literally his job to officiate at the most sacred ceremonies of the year, standing in front of the king and queen in all his ecclesiastical splendor. He was the very height of visibility, exactly where he had longed to be, in front of the queen, restored in dignity. And that was the moment Louis XVI chose to have him seized. In front of the assembled court, the guards stepped forward. The whispers must have rippled like fire through the crowd. The king confronted the cardinal with the forged documents. Letters bearing the queen's supposed signature, contracts for the necklace. "How dare you," was the message. "How dare you drag the queen's name through such filth?"
Rohan's stand could only stammer his defense that he had acted out of loyalty, that he had believed he was helping the queen, and that every step had been taken in devotion to her. But Louis XVI was not in a mood for explanations. He ordered the cardinal arrested on the spot. Ice cold. I think this is ice cold.
It really is.
Think of the humiliation. A prince of the church, a man of one of France's most prestigious families, marched out of the Hall of Mirrors under guard, still in his ceremonial robes, as the entire court watched. This was the ultimate fall from grace, and it was staged as theater for maximum effect. Like, they could have done it like more discreetly, but no. And of course, Versailles always thrived on gossip. Can you imagine that poor fool who maybe didn't go to, the feast that day, and because he had explosive diarrhea, and then the next day he heard what he had missed?
Missed out on all the court gossip.
So yeah, by the time Rohan reached his new quarters in the Bastille under guard, the corridors were already full of speculations. Some whispered that he was guilty of treason, others that he had plotted against the queen, still others that he had tried to seduce her. The truth didn't even matter. The spectacle was enough, and it was so entertaining. So sweet. Meanwhile, Jeanne de la Motte was also arrested. Well, it was actually 3 days later, and she had managed to destroy all evidence of any forged correspondence on her side.
She ate it.
For her, the drama unfolded less majestically. She was seized, interrogated, and locked away, her dreams of grandeur collapsing into the reality of shackles. Rétaux de Villette, the forger, he was rounded up too, along with Nicole d'Oliva. Nicole's story is actually one of the saddest in the whole affair. She had been little more than a pawn, a poor girl pulled into a con she really had no idea of. I think she basically didn't even understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And when she was dragged into custody, she wept and she swore. She didn't even know what was the scheme. And in time, the courts would believe her. But for the moment, she was caught in the same dragnet as the rest. The arrests made headlines across Paris, and honestly, it also made international headlines. I found a bunch of articles from newspapers from the time, and I think maybe we will read them for Patreon because they are very lengthy and basically say what we told you so far anyway. But it's interesting, maybe.
Oh yeah, that would be fun. Somewhere I still have a whole bunch of saved articles that were just nuts. Like these little snippets of articles you'll read, and especially in old articles in old newspapers. So yeah, this is wild. This whole story, when you really, I mean, I know we talk about a lot of really outlandish things, but when you really think about how this is wild.
That's the thing. You hear history but think about
it's hard to imagine
what's going on there. Like,
yeah.
Total soap opera content.
And ordinary French people were eating it up. They could hardly believe the rumors that they were hearing. Was the queen involved? Had she plotted to buy the necklace in secret? Was the cardinal her secret lover? Or a dupe? In coffee houses and markets and in pamphlets, the story just exploded. For Marie Antoinette, this was the worst outcome imaginable. Even though she had been the victim of fraud, she was once again placed at the center of a scandal. Her enemies painted her as a greedy, manipulative, and vindictive queen, and the public, already primed to believe the worst, saw only another confirmation of Madame de Versailles. Louis XVI, determined to clear his queen's name, ordered that the matter be brought before the Parlement of Paris, a high court that would try the accused. He believed a public trial would vindicate Marie Antoinette, expose the fraud, and punish those responsible. But we'll see what was going to happen. For now, picture the tableau at Versailles. A court stunned, a queen furious, a king demanding justice, a cardinal disgraced, and a handful of con artists dragged into prison. The necklace was gone, scattered across Europe in anonymous stones. We are now in the Parlement of Paris, the highest court in the kingdom, composed largely of nobles and magistrates. Its authority was considerable, and its decisions were watched closely by the people. The cardinal's defense was simple. He had been deceived. He insisted that he had acted out of loyalty, believing that he was serving Marie Antoinette. The forged letters? He thought they were genuine. The midnight meeting in the gardens? He truly believed he had met the queen, or at least someone acting on her behalf. The necklace? He was convinced he was helping her discreetly acquire it, sparing her public scandal. Every step, he argued, had been taken in good faith. It was essentially the defense of a gullible man, a man so desperate for favor that he had suspended common sense. And yet, it resonated. The judges, and more importantly the public, could see in the cardinal not a criminal mastermind, but a dupe. And in a strange way, that made him sympathetic.
Jeanne de la Motte was a different story. She fought tooth and nail to save herself, spinning tales, shifting blame, and insisting she was nothing more than a go-between. But the evidence was stacked against her. Letters, witnesses, and the trail of diamonds all pointed back to Jeanne and Nicolas as the true architects of the scheme. She had definitely overplayed her hand, and now the same ambition that had lifted her up dragged her down. Rétaux de Villette, the forger, couldn't deny his role. His elegant handwriting had become his undoing, and he admitted to drafting the letters. His punishment would be banishment. Nicole, poor Nicole, wept in court, protesting that she had never understood what she was doing when she dressed up to play the queen. Her youth, poverty, and obvious naivety convinced the judges, and she was acquitted, which I find very generous.
Yeah.
She was impersonating the queen. This has to be treason. But I think the political situation, the anger of the people, of the common people, was already so palpable.
Yep.
Palpable. Thank you. Palpable that they probably didn't want to anger them by, I don't know, logging that young woman away for life or worse. Yeah.
It would be bad. It would be a bad look.
Yeah. The central drama was always the cardinal versus the queen. Marie Antoinette was not on trial, but her reputation very much was. The proceedings became a referendum on her character. Had she been secretly scheming to buy the necklace, or was she, as she insisted, the innocent victim of fraud? The public, primed by years of libes and gossip, leaned toward the worst interpretation. They remembered the muslin gowns at the Petit Trianon, the rumors of lovers, the public display of extravagance. To them, the idea that the queen had tried to secretly acquire the necklace sounded plausible. Too plausible. And even if she hadn't, the fact that the trial was happening at all seemed kind of to confirm her guilt. When the verdict was delivered, the shock was palpable. The parliament acquitted Cardinal de Rohan on 31st of May 1786. he was declared innocent of wrongdoing, a man who had been deceived like everyone else. And I think the public erupted in kind of cheers and were applauding him. So they were super happy about it. He was kind of like a hero to them in a way. Who knows why? After the trial, though, the cardinal's career at court was effectively over. I mean, obviously. Stripped of his office as Grand Almoner of France and exiled to his abbey at Gestieux. But don't worry, he wasn't buried alive.
Sorry. I love the don't worries in our episodes sometimes. But don't worry, he wasn't buried alive. It's fine. Just in case your mind did go there. It might not have, but if it was immediately, if you jumped right to buried alive, no. That's not what happened.
Before long, he was allowed to return to Strasbourg, where his popularity quickly showed itself. In 1789, the clergy of Haguenau and Wissembourg elected him to represent them in the Estates General. At first, he tried to decline. Perhaps he was kind of a little bit scared of being drawn back into politics, but he probably was also kind of honored. When the Estates General transformed into the National Assembly, it validated his election anyway. Still, he remained a prince of the church, and when the revolution demanded the clergy swore loyalty to the civil constitution of the clergy in 1791, Rohan refused. Rather than take an oath that clashed with his conscience, he left for Ettenheim, just across the border in the German part of his diocese. There, he spent what remained of his wealth quietly supporting priests who had fled France after refusing the oath. By the turn of the century, his influence was long gone. On 29th of November 1801, he formally resigned his nominal post as the Bishop of Strasbourg. A little more than a year later, on 17th of February 1803, Louis de Rohan died at Ettenheim quietly in bed, an old man in exile.
Jeanne de la Motte was not so lucky. She was convicted and sentenced to be publicly whipped, branded with a V for volus, which means thief, on each shoulder, and imprisoned for life. The punishment was brutal. In June 1786, she was paraded through the streets of Paris, whipped before the crowd, and branded with a hot iron. Then, she was taken to the Salpêtrière prison, a grim place for women in Paris. But she didn't stay there long. After a year, she managed to escape, disguised as a boy, and slipped out of France. She resurfaced in London, where she immediately set about trying to rewrite the story to her advantage. In 1789, she published her memoirs justificatifs, a book that painted herself as the victim and heaped blame on Marie Antoinette. It was quite the success. The British public, already suspicious of the French queen, lapped it up. But Jeanne's life in London was far from glamorous. She racked up debt, fell out with creditors, and in 1791, while trying to hide from them, she either fell or threw herself from a hotel window. The injuries were horrific. The Times reported that she was, quote, terribly mangled, her left eye cut out, one of her arms and both her legs are broken, end quote. She died on August 23, 1791, and was buried in St. Mary's Churchyard in Lambeth, London.
Nicolas de la Motte managed to escape justice, slipping away before he could be punished. He was tried in absentia and sentenced to the galleys. We talked at length about what that means when we covered Vidocq. As we said before, rétaux de villette was tried and sentenced to banishment, which meant he lived out his life in exile, never to be able to return to France. Charles-Auguste Böhmer and Paul Bassange, the two unlucky jewelers, weren't treated as victims, but as fools. Isn't that always the case in these kind of things?
Yeah.
The kind of victim blaming.
They made a lot of mistakes, for sure.
Yeah.
They made a lot of mistakes, but they weren't.
They were still victims. I mean,
they were still victims of the scam. Yes, they were.
Yeah. They trusted the forged letters and the cardinal, and their masterpiece had kind of just vanished. Poof.
Poof. Just like that.
And the trial didn't help them. Everyone wanted someone to blame, and although Jeanne took the brunt, the jewelers' reputations were destroyed. Böhmer especially couldn't recover. Bankrupt and disgraced, he eventually left France and died in poverty. Bassange fared only a little bit better, managing at least to keep working in the jewelry trade, but never regaining the prestige he had lost.
But the true loser of the trial was Marie Antoinette. She had never wanted the necklace. She had never touched it, ordered it, or worn it. And yet, in the court of public opinion, she was guilty, or at least suspicious. Caricatures showed her dripping in diamonds while peasants starved. Even though the legal record said she was innocent, the scandal fixed her image as Madame Deficit. Spend, spend, spend. The Austrian interloper who cared more for jewels than for her people.
You know what? I think that people probably thought what we think today. The rich, the people on top, they can, twist stories. They can find a guilty one.
Always.
So why wouldn't they believe, well, for sure she wanted to have the necklace and now they just kind of tried to sacrifice the cardinal and other people, peasants, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. Historians today see the affair of the diamond necklace as a turning point. Now, don't get me wrong, it didn't cause the French Revolution, but it definitely poured fuel on the fire. Marie Antoinette tried to fight back. She posed for portraits with her children, trying to look less like a frivolous queen and more like a mother. She gave money to hospitals and orphanages, but nothing worked. If she was generous, it was called hypocrisy. If she showed her children, it was staged. Versailles was no longer a place of dreams. Outside its gates, harvests were failing, bread was scarce, and people were hungry. The diamond necklace affair had taught them to see the monarchy as out of touch, and people started to get very, very angry.
In 1789, that anger exploded. On 14th of July, the Bastille fell, and the revolution began. But for Marie Antoinette, the real terror came in October. Thousands of women, mothers, market women, laundresses, marched from Paris to Versailles, furious about the price of bread. They carried knives, pikes, even dragged cannons by hand. The demand was simple: bread and the king's attention. By the early hours of 6th of October, the palace had been stormed. Guards were slaughtered, their heads paraded on pikes. Crowds poured into the queen's apartments, shouting for her blood. Marie Antoinette barely escaped through a hidden passageway. At dawn, she appeared on the balcony with her children. Accounts differ, but apparently her calm in that moment hushed the mob, at least briefly. So instead of killing her, they demanded the royal family move to Paris. And Versailles was abandoned. 2 years later, in 1791, she and Louis XVI tried to run. The plan was to escape Paris and cross into Austrian territory where troops loyal to her family could protect them. But the plan was clumsy. They traveled in a huge coach that moved slowly, drawing attention. At every stop, people recognized the king's face because it was everywhere. It was stamped on every coin. Near the town of Varennes, they were stopped and arrested. This failed escape destroyed whatever little sympathy had remained. To the people, the king and queen had shown their true colors. They weren't partners in reform. They were traitors, plotting with foreign enemies. And from then on, Marie Antoinette wasn't just a Madame Deficit. She became l'Autrichienne, the Austrian woman, a spy. By 1792, the monarchy was finished. The family was imprisoned in the temple in Paris, originally a medieval remnant of the fortress of the Knights Templar. By the revolution, it had been turned into a grim jail, and it was here that the royal family spent their final months together. In September of 1792, the defeat of French forces at Verdun sparked a wave of panic in Paris. Rumors spread that royalist prisoners would rise up against the revolution, and over the course of just a few days, roughly 1,200 people were dragged from the city's prisons and massacred in what became known as the September Massacres. The killings were brutal, carried out with guns, axes, and knives, sometimes by burning or tearing the victims to pieces. Among the most infamous victims was the Princess de Lamballe, Marie Antoinette's close friend, imprisoned at La Force, a prison in the Marais that was later demolished to widen the street. She refused to denounce the queen, and for that loyalty she was savagely murdered. Her clothes were torn off, she was raped, and her body mutilated. Her head and genitals were mounted on pikes and paraded through the streets of Paris, carried to the temple and displayed beneath the queen's window.
Wow. Jesus.
Other parts of her body were fired from cannons. Marie Antoinette, imprisoned above, must have trembled as the remains of her friend were exhibited outside. This is such a display of... I mean, angry people are dangerous, obviously. Starving people are dangerous, but how quickly something turns extremely violent. More like this is. I can understand beheading.
Yeah.
Back in the day, not that I support this. I don't know how to say it without sounding like I support people beheading people. From their point of view, I can understand why they thought they have to get rid of all the royals, of all the monarchy.
That's a different thing.
But doing something like this is...
That's a whole other level of...
Yeah. And I have the feeling that this is really, unfortunately, human nature, that they just wait for a chance to do this. Not everyone, but there's always going to be these extremely cruel people.
It's so fucked up,
How
isn't
do you
it?
even get the idea to do something like that?
Fired parts of her body from cannons.
It's so fucked up. Yeah.
Yeah.
On 11th of December 1792, Louis XVI was transferred to the Conciergerie, the medieval prison often referred to as the antechamber of death. In January 1793, Louis was tried and executed by guillotine. 9 months later, it was Marie Antoinette's turn. Her trial before the Revolutionary Tribunal was little more than theatre. She was accused of draining the treasury, conspiring with Austria, of course, immoral behavior, and, in a shocking and grotesque twist, incest with her young son. And when she heard that charge, she rose and said simply, quote, "Nature itself refuses to answer such a charge," end quote.
Yeah, that just... Come on, again. It brings back Anne Boleyn being accused of incest with her brother. It's like, just things people say about women.
Yeah.
You know, for 200.
And also, I mean, I completely understand the thought behind the queen or any queen having lovers cheating, that is or was considered treason because of the line of heritage and these things. But in this kind of trials, why is it always just the women's morality that is in question and attacked?
Yeah.
Like, you don't hear that in history books about any king.
No.
Or any nobleman. It's always just the women.
Different. It's always been a double standard.
Yeah. On 16th of October 1793, she was led to the guillotine, and unlike her husband, who had been carried in a carriage, she was taken in an open cart, and she was booed by the crowd all the way. Her hair had been cut. She was pale, dressed in plain white. At the scaffold, she accidentally stepped on the executioner's foot and apologized. Quote, "Pardon me, sir, I didn't mean to do it," end quote. Moments later, the blade fell. She was 37.
Okay, so what about the necklace itself? The glittering monstrosity at the center of this whole torrid affair. After all of that drama, you might expect it to be sitting behind glass in some museum in Paris. But the truth is, the original necklace no longer exists. As we said, when Nicolas de la Motte got his hands on it, he did the only practical thing. Honestly, why didn't the jewelers do this previously?
I still can't get over that part. Like, none of that would have happened.
It's like, wow, nobody wants this giant harness of diamonds that was clearly designed to be worn naked in the bedroom with only diamonds.
They were just really unfortunate that the Kardashians weren't around.
That's
back
it.
then.
Where's Kim K when you need her? She would have made that thing look amazing. Say what you want about them. I feel any one of them could have handled that harness o' diamonds. But yeah, put it on her horse. Kendall Jenner could put it on her horse. That would look great on a horse. It's just a lot. It's a lot. So, okay, so he dismantles the necklace, and it is worth Because it's worth 1.6 million livres, so it's impossible to sell it as a single piece. And like we said, there was no one to wear it. It was also too distinctive, too famous. Like, it's not something where you can just be like, hey, do you want to buy this?
Want a necklace?
I mean, we're not talking about like a diamond solitaire ring.
Look what I found.
Or a diamond tennis bracelet, right? It's like, look at this. Yeah. Look, I've got 15 pounds worth of diamonds and it's just not happening. But 600 loose diamonds? Yeah, sure. Those could be sold quietly in London, Antwerp, Geneva, all over the place, really. No questions asked. Within months, the jeweler's masterpiece had been broken apart, the settings melted down, and the stones scattered across Europe's gem trade. Some were traced for a little while. A few turned up in London, others in Switzerland, but most simply disappeared into circulation. You could be wearing one right now. By the time the authorities even realized what had happened, it was far too late to track down enough of them to make it worth it. The infamous necklace was gone, and it was never put back together, which, listen, I think we can all agree that that might be for the best. If you type Marie Antoinette diamond necklace or affair of the necklace into Google today, you will see photographs of this dazzling, massive glittering piece that's literally dripping with diamonds. So
the tassels, don't forget the tassels.
Tassels. Thing is, aren't those tassels in the wrong place? Like, why? It's just not. No, it's a no for me. So no, thank you. But yeah. So what are we looking at, right? What are we looking at? Reproductions, reconstructions, and later jewels that were inspired by the legend, because there are a couple of drawings of it, aren't there? We don't have photographs, obviously, but there's a sketch of the original. So some jewelers working from contemporary descriptions and sketches, they've recreated this necklace to give us a sense, really, of its scale and excess. You could wear it while on a horse, Lady Godiva style, and you and the horse would all be covered. Maybe that's how it's meant to be worn.
Probably.
I bet that would be cool. These replicas show multiple strands of diamonds cascading down with rosettes, bows, and can't forget the tassels. Maybe somewhat gaudy? Maybe.
Somewhat.
Is it a little over the top? Maybe. But that was the point. In the 1770s, this was meant to be the ultimate show of power and wealth. Other necklaces you'll see online are quote-unquote related pieces that turned up in auctions centuries later, jewels that may contain stones from the original, or things that were styled to echo it. One such necklace containing around 300 carats of diamonds, and marketed as having quote-unquote ties to the scandal. So the original was, over 2,000 carats, like 2,400 carats.
2,400 carats, yeah.
2,400 carats. So you're taking, oh my God, what percentage of that is 3?
Yeah, and the 300 carats there are not even considered. Maybe there's just 1 diamond or 5 diamonds.
That's it. And that sold for $5 million, almost.
And there's not even proof. There's not even proof that one of the diamonds, like, how can you even prove that,
How would
right?
you know? Maybe there's a medium who can touch gems and tell you where they've been. What survives today, then, is really just, it's like inspired by the necklace. The idea of the necklace more than the actual necklace itself. Reconstructions and photos in museums let us imagine what it must have looked like. A kind of ghost jewel stand-in for the original. And I can't wait to hear what everyone thinks.
Yeah.
We have a picture of like someone wearing it in theory, like a
mannequin.
Yeah.
And it goes down to the belly button.
There's a lot going on. That's it.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's too many diamonds.
It would really look good while sitting naked. No, I'm not gonna say
sitting naked on a horse, sitting
naked on Prince Albert's sex chair.
I was gonna say it wouldn't look bad on the sex chair. You could drape it over the person behind or above you, depending on where on the sex chair you are.
Yeah, but then the tassels are in your face probably, and that's gonna scratch you. And
they will. Yeah, that's true. You don't want to get diamonds in your actual eyes.
This is getting too far.
I know. We took it too far again. All right. Something good. Do you have anything good?
Yes, I have something good. Okay, so I think I mentioned at least ones that I'm into perfume and I collect perfume since forever. And there are 2 perfumes by Yves Saint Laurent that I used to wear in the early 2000s. And Yves Saint Laurent and many other companies, parfum houses and designer houses have the habit of, and Yves Saint Laurent especially, of discontinuing fragrances that people love in a way. And 2 of these 2 fragrances that I used to wear in the 2000s, they haven't been made in well over 10 years, 15 years. But, occasionally I go through the classifieds and through all these pages, eBay and whatnot, to search for these perfumes. And one of them, it's Nu by Yves Saint Laurent. You know it, like the silver, like circle. I show you a photo. And it sells for like 300 euros. And I'm not I'm not going to pay 300 euros for 15-year-old perfume where I don't even know how it has been stored. And, It's not going to happen. But I found like a miniature 10 milliliter in the kind of miniature style, but with the exact same bottle on eBay. And it was like 40 euros. So that was kind of, it's a lot for 10 milliliters, but I could justify that as part of the collection. And it arrived and it's, how smell triggers memories. And it kind of was such a throwback, but it's so good.
Oh, nice.
I love it. And it made me so happy. So that was my something good.
Oh, that can be mine too.
It was my white whale.
You know what I still haven't done is open up that tester, like all the little miniature of, what is it, Penhaligon?
Yeah.
No, I've been waiting. My stomach keeps growling. If anyone hears that in the background, I'm really sorry. My stomach's not upset. It's just, do you ever have one of those days where your stomach's just like, hello, all day? What's going on out there? Yeah, so I bought that Penhaligon, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
And testers, and I want to do open it and then sniff them all virtually with you while we chat sometime, because it would just be fun to do it together.
Oh, we should do that.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I haven't worn perfume in probably 4 years because of the headaches. I've just really struggled. And interestingly, my migraines are more sensitive than they used to be, like certain smells. For some reason, anything that's too strong of a vanilla or a bad vanilla in a perfume makes me immediately almost violently ill and full-blown migraine city. But then equally, I've noticed that I'm less tolerant for certain scents, but if a perfume is very well made, so of course now it's more expensive perfumes, but then I can tolerate it and really enjoy it. And the key for me has actually been when I do come across a scent I don't want to smell, I usually have this roller ball of like peppermint oil for migraines in my bag, and I'll just like sniff that. But sometimes it's nice to be able to just like bury my nose in my own wrist for a minute, you know what I mean? And just recenter myself. Yeah. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense to anybody, but it's just been really nice. So I really want to try this. I'm on the waiting list.
The discovery set,
to get, because there's one, I think I want to get it for Paul. They do one called Opus 1870, and Paul was born in 1970, and our dog is Opus. So I think it would be
that's cute,
fun. Yeah. I smelled a little of it, but I need him to like try it on he doesn't wear, he always smells good, but it's like his deodorant and body wash. It's not, All right. Yay, perfume.
Look, that's our little luxury. I don't have diamonds. I have perfume.
Do you want diamonds
that are collected?
Or do you not like diamonds? No.
Look, I'm not really. First of all, it's so problematic, and it's also such a scheme. And I'm really, my pet peeve is the whole De Beers thing. But
100%.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But I do like jewelry. Yeah. It doesn't have to be super expensive or something, but I do have a few pieces now that are. I mostly wear silver. I would love to have like rosé gold earrings once, but that's like wedding anniversary kind of gifts.
That's it
for my husband. So,
yeah. I don't have. Well, I do like jewelry, and I still have both of my. Well, I have my engagement ring from Adam that I wear on my right hand, and lately I've been wearing that with a really simple band that was my mom's. And then I wear my set from Paul on my left hand, obviously, but I do have a bunch of stuff. And again, it's not like we have anything that's like, ooh, worth so much money, but it's little stuff where it's like, can you fix the clasp on this? Can you repair this? Yeah. I have my grandmother's diamond, and it's this beautiful 0.6 carat. So it's a little over half a carat. It's not a giant stone or anything. It's just beautiful. And it was my grandma, so it's very sentimental. So they got engaged in 1936. So I'm hoping to eventually find what's called like a semi-mount, which is where someone has taken the ring, but they've kept the diamond and reset it. You know what I mean? So that it's just the ring missing a diamond. Because I'd love to put it in something more vintage looking that I could wear on my index finger, if that makes sense, But I love having little pieces that belong to people I love, because I think I've said before how like my jewelry is like my armor. Like I put it on like for luck and protection and to feel people close to me during different things, which I think sounds crazy now that I'm saying it out loud, but I feel like there are people nodding. Yes, they understand what I mean. So
I have, my mom once gifted me, that's the only thing I have from my maternal grandmother. She used to wear every day of her life, pendant made from a Austrian gold coin of Franz Josef Thaler.
Oh, nice.
And they made a pendant out of it, but I need a gold necklace to wear it.
Oh, you need a chain.
I'm going to send you a photo. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. It's funny because I have coins that were, I have one that was Adams. Lucy has one. All the grandkids were given like a half sovereign a million years ago. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to find a jeweler who can set them in a way where it's not going to damage the coin. Like bezel set it or do something.
Yeah, that's really difficult.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Maybe it's not how it's done anymore.
Because I know mine has the damage from the setting, but I mean, that's fine. I'm not gonna dismantle it.
No.
I'm just gonna Böhmer and Passage the thing.
That's all. That's all you need to do. Oh, I love it. All right. This was so interesting.
I think that's it.
That's right. If you enjoyed this episode or any or all of our other episodes, please, please, please do us the huge favor to rate and or review us on your favorite podcast app. It makes a huge difference and helps new listeners find us. Quick note on that, on Spotify, people were just recently asking about this in the Facebook group. So if you are on Spotify, you cannot leave a written review. You can only leave a star rating, which is great, but you can comment under each episode if you want to leave a comment or say something specific. But you can write actual reviews on Apple iTunes, Audible, IMDb. Yep. I think those are the three biggies.
I'm sure there are more.
And then, of course, YouTube.
Yeah, you can comment on YouTube, or even another great thing, you can recommend us to a friend, preferably one with appreciation for diamonds or scandals or horrible historical facts, or somebody who wants to win trivia night at the local pub. These kind of persons are our people. Please recommend us.
That's right. It's funny, we were in Stoneham the other day, a town near us, and shopping. And in the parking lot, there was this green car. And I was like, I love that car.
Yeah.
I sent you pictures, I know. I thought about posting pictures of the car on Instagram, but then it's not my car. They probably wouldn't mind. It was completely covered in stickers of like, my other car is a coffin and like, all kind of our stuff. It was just like skulls and I was laughing so hard. They had a little dragon on the hood and it was so cute. So I put one of our business cards under her windshield wiper. So sorry about that. But I'm like, you are our people. Like, please, if you don't already listen. Hi. So if you're listening, hi. Sorry about that. And yeah, listen, if you want to keep the podcast going and get access to all kinds of bonus content, you can join us over on Patreon. That is where you'll find our monthly live get-togethers, early episode releases, and, of course, Cinema Macabre. We cannot thank our supporters enough. You really, truly keep the show alive.
It's also that time of the year again, which means we are collecting your Halloween listener stories. If you've ever had a ghostly encounter, a strange or sad or cute family story, if you know, or something that still makes the hair on your neck stand up, send it our way. We want to hear it. You can email us at freshhellpodcast@gmail.com, and your story might be featured in our annual Halloween special. This is one of our absolute favorite traditions. Just like last year, there will be a giveaway with Austrian sweets for one of the listeners who sent their story in.
That's right. You don't have to be chosen to be eligible to win the Austrian candy. Just sending your story in makes you eligible. So, it's also really good candy. So good. You can find all our episodes and links on our website, and we would love to see you in our Facebook group where the discussion continues all week. You can always drop us an email, and if you're old school or if you're like, you know what I want to do, I'm going to send them some diamonds, go ahead and do it, and you'll find our P.O. box address on our website as well, just in case. If you're just in the middle of the night and you're like,
be careful, because sometimes if it's too many diamonds, Annie will just reject it.
Well,
it's like, this is too many.
I feel like I have a pretty high threshold, but this necklace was it. Yeah, you'll see. You'll see.
Please tell your pets we said hi, hug them, cuddle them, don't give them diamonds. Take them to the vet, give them treats, put them under the blanket. Jem is already enjoying my heating blanket that I put on the bed because I had the cold, but that's a whole other story. Anyway, be kind to them. That's what I want to say. Be kind to your fellow human being. Give them diamonds. And be kind to yourself. Buy yourself diamonds. And that's enough diamond talk forever. I swear.
That's right. And if you're going through hell,
buy diamonds. No, keep going. Tschüss.
Bye.